What's up, everybody? Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and happy Friday. I guess today's Friday, whatever day it is for you when you're watching this. Cheers. This video is about my concert week recap. So last week I got a chance to kind of get my concert on a little bit, and I actually ended up seeing 4 shows in 5 nights, and it was about 8 bands or so, which is pretty awesome. I know for some people that might be a lot. For other people, that's nothing. But instead of doing individual show reviews, I figured I'd just go all in and talk about all these shows in one video. I think, point of this is twofold. To talk about the experience, the shows, the bands, the performances, all that kind of stuff. But also, I think, maybe show a little bit of the musical spectrum that I might be dealing with, for better and worse, if that makes any sense. So there's that. So we will dive right in. Again, this was last week, so I guess depending on when you're watching this was the second week of May, and it was 4 concerts and 5 nights. And the very first one that I went to was Tuesday, May 13th, 14th, something like that, at the Newport Music Hall in Columbus, Ohio. So I've been to a ton of shows at the Newport. Great classic historic venue. It opened in 1921, so it's now over 100 years old, and they claim to be the longest running rock club in America. It's on campus at Ohio State, a little bit north of downtown, but interesting. Yeah, I mean, longest running rock club in the United States. It's kind of a big deal. So I've seen a ton of shows there. Capacity's about 2,000 or so. And the band that I went to see there might be a little bit out of what some of you might consider for me, a little bit out of my comfort zone. But I saw a band called Periphery. This is their latest record that came out last year called Periphery 5. Gent is not a genre. An interesting title that I'll talk about here in a second. So who is Periphery? They are I guess they've been around for, 10 to 12-ish years or so, and they fall into sort of this progressive metalcore, post-hardcore, gent genre. So gent, and sort of the reference to the title here, is sort of this genre that some people claim is not a genre, that typically refers to pretty heavy, typically progressive metal type stuff. Think of Animals as Leaders. Meshuggah was sort of the band that really sort of kicked this whole thing off, that is sort of characterized by super down-tuned guitars, heavy rhythms, a lot of polyrhythms, sort of these very, very low notes mixed with these very, very high notes. It's kind of hard to, it's like, what is the whole thing with the Supreme Court and talking about pornography? It's like, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. Similarly, it's hard to talk about, hard to describe, but you know it when you hear it. So I went with a friend of mine to see Periphery. Now, this is typically a little bit heavier than what I'm normally into. I would probably say that this is as heavy as I go outside of, like, Between the Buried and Me. And if you like Between the Buried and Me, there's a good chance you're gonna like this. But this is heavy. I mean, this is metalcore. This is growls, this is screams, this is all the stuff, but it's really good stuff and kind of makes you want to run through a wall. And so I went to go see them at the Newport. Band opened up for them called Idola. They weren't really as much my thing, but I know some people were really into them and they're a strong support act, but these guys blew me away. Fun fact, Jake Bowen, who's one of the guitarists in this group, he's actually the nephew of John Petrucci, guitarist of Dream Theater, so there's a little bit of connection there as well. But this is pretty wild, heavy stuff. Again, Periphery 5, gent is not a genre. They have a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek humor with a lot of their stuff. I mean, their previous record was called Periphery 4, Hail Stan. I mean, I appreciate the sense of humor. Really great performance, super heavy. I don't remember the last time I was at a show that had a pit. They had one, so I'm really glad I went to see these guys. They were awesome, and if they come back, I'll be sure to see them again. So that was the first show at the Newport on Tuesday, Periphery. The very next day, on Wednesday, I head up the street, also on campus, to the Schottenstein Center. This is sort of the big arena on campus for Ohio State. So basketball plays there, some other big events are there, and they have a number of concerts there as well. And this one was a double shot of some legacy bands that I had either never seen before or have not seen in a very long time. And that was Heart with support from Cheap Trick. So I actually got a chance to see Cheap Trick the only other time back in 2006 or so, up at the Palace of Auburn Hills. They were opening for Def Leppard, and saw them then. It was so funny. I was having this conversation. That was almost 20 years ago, and it's weird to think that 20 years ago we were looking at those types of bands, or I was, and thinking like, dang, these guys are still making music. How cool is this? And now we're 20 years later. Look, these guys still just freaking rock. I mean, they're just awesome. Robin Zander is just still, I think, one of the best, most underrated, unsung frontmen ever. He is still fully in his white getup with the top hat. I think he sounds great. He's 70 years old. I'll get to this in a second when I talk about Heart, but man, I got to be honest with y'all. I get tired of some of these people that are like, oh, they just need to pack it in. They need to retire. They don't sound like they used to. Well, no fucking shit they don't sound like they're used to. They're 70 years old, people. Like, you know what? And here's the thing, too, is when these people were performing 40 years ago or 50 years ago, they weren't perfect then either. Like, it's a live show. And for someone like me who didn't grow up with these bands, keep playing until you want to call it quits. That's how I believe with anybody. If they want to go up there and sing and be on stage, go up there and sing and be on stage. But Cheap Trick, once again, blew me away. Robin Zander's up there killing it. Obviously, Rick Nielsen, he's like 75 or so. He's still up there being a complete goof in the best of ways. They played for, about an hour or so, I would guess. Great set. My personal favorite, they threw in Tonight It's You, which is kind of like an 80s pop hit that I love. If you know, you know, by the way. And I just love this. And then obviously there's standards too. Dream Police, Surrender, I Want You to Want Me, all those things that people are probably tired of hearing, but are still great live. And so they were opening up for Heart. Of course, this is Dreamboat Annie, their debut, and sort of what's become known as like their biggest hit or whatever. Of course, the Wilson sisters, Ann and Nancy, who are back at it. They had a little bit of a falling out. There was some actual family drama going on, but I would say it was a musical bucket list for me. I wanted to see the Wilson sisters perform. And here we go again. Nancy Wilson, 70 years old. She can still get it, by the way. Ann Wilson, 73 years old. And I saw someone, I was talking on one of my, on a stream or a video that was going to go see Heart, and someone said, oh yeah, it should be a good show, but Ann I heard she's not sounding good. I thought she sounded great. And again, maybe there's an asterisk there. I don't know. She's 73 fucking years old. I'm just saying, I thought Ann sounded awesome. And I'll say this too. Heart is one of these bands, of course, yeah, do I prefer this type of stuff and Little Queens, all that other stuff? Sure. I love their 80s stuff. I actually think they do hair metal better than most hair metal bands do. And granted, they didn't write most of those songs, but that is okay too. But it was a night full of hits. There was nothing that I wanted to hear that I didn't hear. But to me, I want to show this. To me, the absolute smoker of the night was from this album. Those who know Heart know this album, Dog and Butterfly. Had the huge hit on here, Straight On. That they played, but they played what closes out this record, Mistral Wind. Holy, that was one of those songs I just sort of forget about, or admittedly wasn't as familiar with, but when they played that, I was like, what am I listening to? I mean, this is like just a epic, dark, there's oddly tuned guitars, there's odd time signatures, it's kind of proggy, very Zeppelin. That blew me away, especially live, and just all the effects that they had going on was absolutely insane. So for me, the highlight of the night of the show was them doing Mistral Wind, which blew my freaking mind. What an absolute banger song that is. And killed it. And again, yeah, the 80s stuff is great for me. It was funny, I went with a friend of mine who, he's not as big of like a music guy as I am, but he's like, hell yeah, I like Heart and Cheap Trick, I'll go. And he made the point, because in Heart's set, they played Going to California. It's great. We love Zeppelin, right? They played Going to California, and then their first song on the encore was they played The Ocean. Of course, also Zeppelin. And he asked me, he's like, those were great, but like a band do they really need to be out here doing covers? And I could be like, look, No, I don't know. I'm curious what you all have to say on this. I feel like after that whole Kennedy honors thing from forever ago, where Robert Plant is seen like tearing up when Hart is doing Stairway to Heaven, like then they've sort of just like positioned themselves as like the ultimate like tribute to Led Zeppelin. And look, they're great. Like of course they do them well. It's not about whether or not they do it well. It's like, man, I would rather hear a fucking Heart song. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my vibe with it. Again, they did Going to California in the Ocean. Cool, love that. But also it's like, play another Heart song, man. That's what we're here for. Overall, incredible night. I'm so glad I went to that show and got to see these two legacy sort of bands. Who knows how much time they have left, but they're still up there killing it. I think they sound great, and I'm just pumped that I went. So fast forward now to Friday for two more legacy bands. I hopped my fat ass in my car and drove down to Cincinnati. It's about 90 or so minutes to a club called Bogarts, which is right on the University of Cincinnati's campus, or right there about, and met up with my boy Steve at All the World's a Stage and Gary from Physical Format Rock and Roll. You can't say Gary Physical Format Rock and Roll without drinking beer. That's for you, Gary. And we saw two mega legacy acts I want to talk about here, and that was Uriah Heep and Saxon. An interesting bill, but I think it totally makes sense. So I'm going to show this. This is Chaos in Color, Uriah Heep's most recent album. Yes, for those out there who might have been, giving up on Uriah Heep back in the 70s or after David Byron or whatever, they're still cranking out great records. Yes, the only remaining original member is Mick Box. Funny story, I actually took a piss next to Mick Box before the show in a restaurant across the street. Thought it was him, didn't really know what to say. I should have said something, but what are you going to say? Like, can I help you with that? I don't know. But anyway, this is Chaos in Color. Just came out last year. The recent albums that they've been putting out are outstanding. Bernie Shaw has been singing with them, I think, since 1986. He's sounding great. Adam Wakeman is playing keyboards with them, or he was at least on the show, the son of the great Rick Wakeman. And to me, they're killing it. They were absolutely outstanding. Bernie Shaw is killing it. The new stuff sounds great. This is a great record. I had to pick it up. If I see a band on a certain tour, I want to buy the record from that tour that I'm seeing them on. And again, if you gave up on Uriah Heep, after Sweet Freedom or Return to Fantasy or whatever, go back, check this out. Again, I think for me, the highlight, it was a great mix of a lot of classic stuff and then a lot of newer stuff too. But for me, I think my favorite part of the show was them doing July Morning from Look at Yourself. The big, whimsical, epic, just amazing. They absolutely killed that. I love that song. It's one of my favorite Uriah Heep songs. But they also did Rainbow Demon, which is a fucking slapper too. So a great set. I absolutely love these guys, and this record's great too. So again, give Uriah Heep the new stuff a listen, a chance if you're not familiar with it, because it absolutely bangs in the best of ways. And so they were opening up for, although I think it was more viewed as like a co-headline sort of thing, but they played before arguably the second greatest new wave of British heavy metal band? Question mark? Saxon. So talk about another band that I think is only rolling with one original member, but that original member is Biff Byford, their singer, who's in his 70s now. And speaking of old guys sounding fucking great, Bernie Shaw is sounding great, and man, Biff Byford sounding really good too. So this is Hellfire and Damnation, also from last year from Saxon, another killer record. I will say this, so they played great, huge, heavy, great kind of combination of newer stuff, old stuff. It all sounded great to me. What I loved about these two bands, they're heavy. I mean, they are heavy now, not only in the music that they're playing now, but also the way that they're performing the old stuff. I mean, my problem with Saxon, I don't have a problem with Saxon. I think they're great. I own a number of their stuff. But to me, the production just never sounded heavy enough. It wasn't how it was written or how it was played. It was the way it sounded. It was never distorted enough. The bass drum was never bassy enough. It didn't have the same type of heavy production style that like an Iron Maiden had. But when these guys are live, man, it's heavy as all get out, man. Double kick in your face, just absolutely killing it. So yeah, I would say both for Saxon and Uriah Heep, huge time heavy bands, and they both just killed it. And it was so great to hang out with Steve and Gary, and we got spotted too. Someone came up to us at the show and they're like, "Hey Steve, hey Gary, hey Alex, I watch your show. It's so good to meet you." You know what? I refuse to sign autographs, but you know what? It is what it is. So hell of a Friday. What a great time. And that was again down in Cincinnati. And I came back Friday night. Why? Because I had a sold out show I had to go to on Saturday evening for one of my favorite bands ever right now, and a band that everybody and their brother is talking about. And in a bitter boomer way, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm so glad everybody's talking about this band now, but I've been talking about them for 4 or 5 years now. And of course, that is the great Lemon Twigs. Yeah, I feel like this record's been everywhere. Everybody's talking about the Lemon Twigs. This is the most recent one that's come out this year. A Dream is All We Know. This is the, I guess we'll call it the fancy one. It's on this sort of vinyl, but more importantly, let's bust this out for all the nerds out there. This was like a pre-order from their website that comes. It's hard to see, but you can kind of see it there with a signed print from Michael and Brian, the Diodario brothers. Yeah, so let's talk about this. So they played here in Columbus, sold out show at a joint called Rumba Buffet. Can you tell I'm a fat guy? Rumba Cafe, which is actually right across the street from Used Kids Records, which is one of the biggest, I mean, it is the biggest record store in town. This is like a dive bar. I mean, we're talking capacity might be 200, if that, and it was crammed in there for sure. God, these guys are great. Absolutely amazing. This is the 3rd time I've seen them now, and they just blow me away every time. What's interesting, and this is a topic for another video, I guess, is are they going to blow up? I don't think they will, because the demographic of that show, I felt like I was chaperoning. I mean, a lot of underage, which is great, right? Like that's amazing. I just don't know where they go from here. But this was such a good show. These guys are just incredible. I will see them anytime they're anywhere close. And again, everybody's talked about this record enough, and we're loving it. But they are, I mean, this is like a record collector's band. This is a band's band. Like, the people who like the Lemon Twigs are the musicians out there, are the record collectors, are the people who love sound. Tracking Angle, our boy Dylan Pagan just posted a great review on Tracking Angle of this record. Everybody's talking about it. I love it. I love these guys. But this is now their 5th record. So yeah, they're in their mid-20s still, but they're no, young bucks anymore. And it's just wild that they're sitting there playing like 200, seat dive bars. But these guys are great. For me, I mean, this is probably my favorite band of right now, of today. And it was just the best. I mean, I just, I couldn't stand it. They came out again with the big encore Brian did, When Winter Comes Around, which is my favorite song from them. Shed a tear every time. That's off their previous record, Everything Harmony. But yeah, again, if you like power pop, if you like the Beach Boys, I mean, this whole record is like a Brian Wilson tribute, I feel like. Just in the best way, right? Just amazing. I'm all in on the Lemon Twigs. Amazing stuff. And yeah, that rounded up the Saturday night sold out show in Columbus. And that is the end of the recap. So yeah, we went Periphery with some progressive metalcore. We went some classic with Heart, Cheap Trick. We went some little bit classic metal with Saxon, Uriah Heep. And then of course we topped it off at the end with one of my favorite bands of right now, at least, with some just classic, amazing power pop courtesy of the Lemon Twigs. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when my next concert is. I'll have to look, but this was just an amazing week, and so glad I was able to do it and catch these shows. Shout out once again to my boy Gary, Physical Format Rock and Roll, and Steve at All Worlds of Stage for their company. Steve, thanks for hooking us up with those tickets, man. It was such a great time, and looking forward to hanging out with you guys again soon. So thank you all for watching and sticking around. Let me know if you've seen these bands live, what you think of them, all that kind of stuff. And if nothing else, we'll see you on the next one. Appreciate you all very much. Take care now. Cheers, y'all. Bye.